Uh, we're going to ask that everyone take their seats if they can. Those of you who have been to these reviews before, you'll remember these remarks. Since 2004, we've done public program reviews for the 4 main units of the college. We do these publicly so that you can, in fact, hear what is going on in each of the large administrative divisions in the college, but it also is a time for those divisions to put forward budget proposals so that everyone gets to hear what is being put forward. For the next 4 weeks, counting this one, we have program reviews. What will happen is then the governor gives his address, March something or other, a budget address. We then try and figure out the impacts of that for higher education. And I and Administration and Finance start drawing up various budgetary models for next year. Then usually, late May, sometimes it's varied a bit, we have a cabinet meeting to discuss the budgetary request and how those could be met or not met and make adjustments. And it's an amazing sort of thing because the members of the cabinet actually work well together and say, you know, here are priorities that we really support in these other areas, and we're willing to, in fact, balance ours out in order for other people to achieve theirs. And so it's a really nice give and take. Now, today's program review there's a moral lesson in it, and the moral lesson is that neither snow, sleet, nor hell will stop academic affairs from their appointed rounds. So it's with my great pleasure that I introduce Harvey Kesselman, the provost.
Oh, that was cute. That was cute. That was cute. Now, most of you know that the Rocky video seemed to be a very huge success last year, and Rob and Peter really wanted to top it this year. But I know they were having a heck of a lot of trouble coming up with something. Let's see how they're making out.
I don't know, I'm still thinking something like Twilight with vampires and werewolves, kind of action.
That's derivative, it's been done, everyone's doing that these days.
Well, what about if we went back to the Rocky theme?
What, Dorothy marries Rocky? I'm not playing Dorothy, alright? Get over it. What about Harry Potter? I've got the glasses, I've got the accent.
You want me to play Voldemort? I'm not shaving my head to play Voldemort.
Oh, and what about costumes? I mean, we got any money for that?
No.
No budget?
No budget.
Man, this place looks like a crime scene.
Crime scene?
Crime scene?
Thanks to Kent Green, Ken Flick, and Greg Collins for that. Great work, and it will continue, of course, next year. First, I really do want to thank you for being here today. I do know the weather's a little difficult, and no, we did not have a delayed open and didn't close because of the academic program review. I want to say that now. Let's start with the agenda for today. We have a lot of great news to share with folks. We have a budget request that we will outline for folks, and we also certainly will be available for any questions that you may have. We'll have greetings and farewells, a very brief SWOT analysis, only highlighting a certain strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We'll be looking back to see how we've done, looking forward, and the budget and funding requests. A couple of greetings, although most of you know her, and it appears as if, but this is her first year still, Susan Davenport, who is our Vice Provost for e-learning, and Waleed Abdurabu, who is our new Associate Director of Information Systems. He's the individual who replaced Marlena Brown. So welcome to them. And a number of farewells. Dick Burry, for those who do not know, he's in the School of Health Science, a member of our faculty. Nancy Fiedler, who was in the School of Education. Bob King, Marcy Littell, Linda Nelson, a longtime faculty member at the college, and of course, and we'll be celebrating, is Beth Olson in our grant. So farewell, but thank you for all of your service to the college, and a warm round of applause for those individuals. SWOT, strengths. Normally, folks are able to spin U.S. News and World Report in just about the way that they choose to spin it, but not this particular item. Why this particular item is of note, and that is that we have been named an up-and-coming university in the North region. That's about 420 public and private colleges and universities in the northern part of the United States, because we were named by presidents, provosts, and deans of admissions. And it wasn't simply a list of 400 schools that you pick from. In order to make this list, presidents, provosts, and deans of admissions had to actually go into the survey, identify the college, identify it by number, write the number down. So it was a very intentional decision on the part of our colleagues in senior level positions in the United States, in the northern part of the United States, to name us this. And it's because what were the criteria they were using? Their belief that these are the colleges making the most promising and innovative changes in the areas of academics, faculty, and student life. And I know that there are academics, faculty, student life, and all of the other people in support of that in this room. So you all deserve a round of applause, and I really mean that, for getting us here. When you talk about being distinctive, that's distinctive. It's a very small group, and it's an honor to be part of that group. Systematic commitment to institutional leg themes. Once we got over the issue, whether we would call them pillars or themes or whatever we were going to call them, we now have institutional buy-in. I see Jenny laughing because we had those discussions immensely the first couple months when we were discussing what are we going to call these. But the bottom line is it has become interwoven within the fabric of the language of the college, our legs theme. That is a strength, because what it does, it ties in all of the different aspects of the college, everything from our budget proposals to our program reviews to individual requests for funding and the like. That's an important consideration. Many institutions go through identity crises all the time, and they're not exactly sure what the priorities of the institution are. Having something of this magnitude with this consistent message at every level of the institution is extraordinary in higher ed, and it's one of the reasons why I think we have been identified as up and coming. External partnerships. I'm not sure there's many institutions anywhere that are doing more in a sustained way, even though it's typically within Stockton fashion, and that is it's done by initially individuals and then grow into a whole. But we have the Stockton Center for Community Engagement, as most of you know about. Certainly in the SRI ETTC, the regional sites, the high school partnership, the Hughes Center, and the like. We have a number of partnerships with the external communities that are providing extraordinary results, not only for Stockton, but also for their communities. And the kinds of systemic changes that we are having in K through 12, in urban revitalizations of small towns is extraordinary for an institution of our size, and that's another, I think, strength of the college. Other strengths, the professional development and scholarly activity remain consistently strong. You ought to be proud of yourselves. When you compare us to other public institutions with a mission similar to ours, we don't normally see the kind of productivity we see here. Our Institute for Faculty Development, from years under the leadership of Heather McGovern, that is now aptly being overseen by Bill Reynolds, we're making lots of strides, and we provide exemplary services, resources, and support to new faculty as well as other faculty members who need that additional support. In many of the conferences that we go to and that we attend, we find a lot of interaction with a lot of other institutions, and one of the envies of this institution is the success of the IFD. And then this is a commitment that only the president and my colleagues on cabinet, because without their give and take, when we do go to those meetings that the president is talking about over the course of the next 3 or 4 months, they have always been supportive of the request of this division as it pertains to faculty line. There is an overall commitment at this institution, unlike any, TCNJ, Rowan, and they could all be in the room, I'd say, TCNJ, Rowan, Rutgers, and the like, to have the kind of commitment to full-time faculty that we do here. And we've tried to make sure that that growth is on pace with all of the student growth. Weaknesses, I'm only going to identify 2. Alternate delivery improving, but still remains a challenge. We're moving in the right direction. I'll be showing you a chart later on that demonstrates that. But it's still a challenge to adopt it in ways that can advance our institutional agenda further. We're moving in the right direction. I'm pleased to say that, but there's still a great opportunity. From weakness comes opportunity for us to improve. Capacity issues and high demand programs. The extraordinary success, there's no other word I can use, of the BSHS programs. For those who are not aware, the Bachelor of Science in Health Science was started 2 years ago. Opened the doors. It now has 750 majors in 2 years. One program. The demand of that program, not just on health sciences resources, but on the resources of the natural sciences and mathematics, which provides the baseline courses for that program, is extraordinary, and we need to work out ways that we maximize the capacity for that program, because that is one of the programs of the future based upon every single study that's done, whether it's Georgetown. The president just shared with me a report done by Stevens, led a report for the New Jersey President Council, which also reaffirms this. So it's critically important that we make certain that those high demand programs are able to fulfill capacity. Because I'm going to show you a little bit of data later on that speaks to the issue. When you have enough seats across the board spread out for student choice, it can make an extraordinary difference in graduation rates. Some opportunities, international education, we're about on the precipice of exploding in that program. Not huge numbers, but in changing the game for Stockton. We have had a difficult time, as you all know, attracting students from countries that we seek to have more students from. And as a result, we've begun to put a lot of institutional energy and resources, not just energy, but resources to begin to expand not only the opportunities for our students to study abroad, but also for students to come here to study in the States. The coach survey, of course, again, I have another chart that'll show the data. I think we're going to get a lot of very, very good data. We're very pleased with the return rate, response rate, and this will speak to the issue. This is done by Harvard, and again, I'll talk a little bit more, but it speaks to the issue of job satisfaction on the part of faculty. And we'll get an opportunity to really look at it in a survey that's normed against other institutions across the United States. ELO director, as you know, one of the joys of being in the provost position is that when you make an announcement of an individual that is so widely approved, you know you've done the right thing. And Kara Hood, as you know, has been named the ELO director, and I think that's going to have a very positive effect. The concept of ELOs, once we get past how to measure it and everything like that, resonates with the public, it resonates with the legislature, and it resonates with parents and students themselves. They get it. They want their children, whether it's the traditional student, to get an education that, yes, provides them with a degree, yes, that provides them with a liberal arts and sciences education, but also one where they understand what critical thinking is, what quantitative reasoning, what ethical reasoning is, what those major essential learning outcomes are, and that their children, and that's what I'm talking about, parents in the traditional base are getting that kind of education. For the more traditional, or now, what's been called non-traditional, which is now becoming the traditional student, it also is important because employers are looking for that. It resonates with employers. They want, what do they always say? We want to make sure that our students are able to write when they come here, publicly speak when they come here. That's an important consideration, and the essential learning outcomes deal with that. And then our academic plan initiative, which is the last leg of all of the other kinds of planning apparatus we have in play, and more on that later. Threats, legitimate threats. Recently, and most of you get this, whether it was a Chronicle of Higher Education, whether it's inside higher education, there have been changing regional and state demographics. I know that Herman has spoken about this on a number of occasions. The number of students, particularly in this state, available high school graduates is going to decline. The numbers are particularly disquieting when you look at African American population and white population. Hispanic population will go up. However, white and African American populations are going to drop. And overall, this is not a high growth region, this part of the New Jersey, in the United States. We need to be mindful of that. It means that we're going to have to work harder in recruiting students as we become in a more competitive environment. We need to consistently articulate our distinctive advantage. I know we believe in it, and we have so many of them, but we have to consistently do that because it's going to be more difficult. Decreasing number of high school graduates and community college students. Historically, Stockton could rely on a large number of community college students to meet the needs of the institution if it was called for. That luxury no longer exists, no matter how much we would like it to exist. Now, we've done a phenomenal job, and the president has been instrumental in this, in increasing the number, and John, of course, and the admissions folks are the folks down there on the troops getting the folks, of increasing the size of the freshman class till we have almost, 10,070, John, this year? So that's incredible. When you count just the 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, you had 670, 700. But the amount of community college graduates for the first time in my memory was below the number of first-time freshmen, and it's going to get worse because there are fewer and fewer students in community colleges, and that does not look good anywhere in New Jersey. We have to deal with that reality. And there's an issue here that all of you know about, you read about it all the time, the extraordinary expansion, we talked about this over and over again, and encroachment by other institutions for profits and the like, in the state, all competing for that New Jersey student that we rely on so heavily. That's why the international services proportion becomes increasingly more important for us. Ask you, we're part of an organization, the American Association of what? State colleges and universities. About 400 and some members. What are they talking about? What do they see as the big picture? Political leaders to link state allocations to tuition caps freezes. Our governor has avoided that. There's always quiet pressure from the legislature, but so far we haven't had the kind of pressure that some of the other states. If you look at the FIA system, the Pennsylvania system, it's absolutely brutal right now. Absolutely brutal. I just got back from a conference in San Diego. The tales of woe from other states is extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. We are well positioned in relation to other states. However, they do tend to, read one another's newspapers. They do tend to get ideas from one another. And once they do that, then they get into a frenzy because one of the things legislators need to do in order to get reelected is to create legislation. Never lose sight of that. Because without creating legislation, they don't get reelected. And as a result, they always look on ways where they can have their fingerprint on some legislations. Performance-based funding. This is why some of the initiatives we have going on is critically important. If we don't have ways of demonstrating the effectiveness of what we do, this is a certainty. Others will come up with ways to do it. And that's what they've begun to do in performance-based funding. They're looking at simple metrics. Graduation. Time to graduation is very important. the kinds of outcomes that you're seeing. They're looking at everything from future employment opportunities and future annual salaries. Some of the things that you may not even want to be. If you're in an institution that produces a lot of individuals who are involved in the social services agencies, they're not going to make a lot of money, but they are providing an extraordinary public good. So we need to come up with ways of demonstrating that public good, of showing that that's a metric. So that's another area that Askew thinks we need to pay attention to. And of course, states to advocate how Common Core standards will increase student preparedness. There's going to be an expectation that high school graduates are going to be better prepared so that when they enter the colleges and university, they ought not have to be remediated. That's going to be the expectation because there's a lot of energy and a lot of resources getting poured into that in K-12. And then of course, the overall goal being what? To improve completion, both in K through 12, as well as in higher ed. The more we get completion in K-12, however, that does increase the pool of available students to go to college. So that is a completion agenda that we ought to be very supportive of in every way that we can, and it's a completion agenda that we are intricately involved with through the School of Education, the SRI, and ETTC throughout the state of New Jersey. Enrollment numbers, faculty ratio, divisional goals, selected highlights in 2020 initiative. I know Tomasa and John and those folks will go into very good details. I just want to show you two things so you know where we are. Basically, look at the growth just since 2009. 75-59 in head count. This is fall to fall to 84-58. This is graduate and, oh, thank you. That's kind of you, too. Okay, that's graduate and undergraduate. That shows extraordinary growth. It also begins, as we have the discussion, I'll talk about it later, about university status. We need to think about that. We're larger now than TCNJ, substantially. We're substantially larger than Ramapo. They're the other two colleges. I'm not saying that's a reason, but it's one of the reasons why U.S. News and World Report, why the Carnegie Classification, and why so many entities out there include us in that status, because our size is getting close to typically not what a small public liberal arts and sciences colleges necessarily is the typical size of that. And that's one of the reasons why there was discussion. It's one of the reasons why folks at Middle States raised the issue. All right, and FTE, and this is a good thing. This really, of all the, you know, there are certain things that you think about. What are one of the variables that really show a change in an institution? This one. If you look at the growth of head count, it was about 1,000, but the growth in full-time equivalents is about 1,200. More of our students are enrolled full-time than ever in the history of the college. Very, very, very few colleges of our size have over 90% of every undergraduate student enrolled full-time. That's extraordinary. That is an extraordinary figure. That's a game changer. It speaks to what is much of a residential college than what was formerly known as a commuter college. Now, you are a main reason for that, in addition to, and that is, the flat rate tuition was incredibly helpful in that. And as we all know now, it has not negatively impacted grade point averages or anything like that. But in order for those FTE, we've had to make sure there's enough seats spread out to generate those FTEs at multiple sites, because we opened 3 sites in 1 year. And you've done that, and I applaud you for doing that. Faculty ratio, this was our commitment to you. While you've seen all that growth, and this is IPEDS determined, we don't make it up, while you do all those, and this isn't what is in every one of your classes, okay? But this is how IPEDS determines it, and this is a federal methodology. Listen, and I can give you some other schools that say they're 6-1, and I can tell you the student's never seen a class size of 6, ever. But this is our commitment to you, and that is to keep this under or near 18, and you will see the steady commitment with its 17.2, which is the lowest it's been in a number of years. So again, that speaks to the issue. Well, we had 34 new faculty hires this year. Now that's not new lines, but it was 34 new hires. So to understand our commitment to keeping that ratio reasonable. Alternate delivery, this was I talking to about before, about the online, hybrid, and telecourse. Telecourse is almost gone, and that's okay with me. Hybrid and online. You can see the growth. It's been growing. 412 to 4 and picked up another 60. But we need to also think about this in the area of certain targeted programs. We might have to expand, and this is going to have to be an institutional discussion, beyond simply courses, but targeted programs for targeted audiences, perhaps. And what are those programs that are likely to be able to be done mostly, if not completely, online? Even if it includes, for example, summer residency component, which is not, by the way, a bad idea. Those work very, very well. But 306 to 472 in a few years is nice growth, and I like seeing it happen. It also is a great way to deal with a day like today, when you can go online and also offer the courses when the college is experiencing this, if you're up in Philadelphia, even though I do see some Philadelphians here, and thanks for making it. Retention rate, real quickly. You will see our third semester retention rate is above 80. This past year is about 87%. That's good. I mean, that's from your first year to the beginning of your second year, where a good proportion of attrition will occur in that year. This is reasonably stable. We'd like it to go up, of course, and we're going to work every way it's possible we can to get it up. And I do think we will. You can see at least the 87% just about. But this is absolutely extraordinary. It ties in with what we were talking about before. And that is the percentage of students who are now enrolled full-time, the 90%. I would have bet, and quite frankly, that this could not have happened like that. The fall 2009 cohort is the first cohort that came in under flat rate, the full 4 years. All the preceding cohorts were still only had, like fall 08 would have had 3 years of flat rate, and so forth. And what you can see here is the 4-year graduation rate. Because we always would graduate, because if I showed you the 6-year, you would see it's about 65 to 68%. We want to get it over that, and we may with these groups. But no matter what that rate has been, what we did was condense the time, again, that students take to graduate. And what this will do, and we'll begin to see the benefits of this down the road, this will show less student loan debt, because students are getting out in 4 years rather than 4.5 years, or 5, or 5.5, or 6 years. And that's going to reduce the amount of money they have to borrow. Right now, as you want, we're on a list, the only list I really don't want to see us on, and that's the list that says the level of indebtedness of a Stockton graduate. Okay, by doing this, reducing the time, okay, I don't even know when it went from 4, that the normal was 4, it was always 4, and then all of a sudden 5 snuck in. I guess then all of a sudden 6 stuck in. You got to go back to this. It's too expensive for students to have to take 5 and 6 years. We used to encourage, I was guilty of it, explore the curriculum, take your time. My goodness, if you saw my channel, you'll know what I'm talking about. You explore and take your time, take as many courses as you possibly can. That doesn't work anymore. That doesn't resonate anymore. It's too difficult for people. They leave. You don't want someone leaving a college or university with $80,000, $90,000 in debt. Okay, they'll never make it back. It's too big of a hole. So this is extraordinary. You're to be thanked. Student Affairs is to be thanked. Everyone, External Affairs, Admin, and Finance, because this is an institutional statistic. It is not a single a divisional statistic. This is the commitment. Again, there they all are. It's online. We didn't make it up. I encourage people to check the data. If you look, we are the largest percent. We provide over Stockton, Ramapote, here they are, in order. We threw Rutgers into the mix. Look at Rowan. You know, I know that they've got a big agenda. No offense to Rowan, because I really do. Well, I know the president and I actually are reasonably close to our colleagues there. But the truth of the matter is you can see how it's being done. Okay, that's not how we're doing it. We're doing it with full-time faculty. That's not an inexpensive way to do it. You talk about the percentage, you can clearly see the percentage of full-time is the blue. The little, I don't know what color that is, but sort of looking pinkish, okay, is a full-time non-tenure track. We are the #1 in the percentage, and the SCHs work the same way. That's an important distinctive difference between many of the other institutions, although it is more costly to do it that way. But we've remained committed because we believe those percentages that you saw before are a direct result of that. Some goals that we had. These goals in a division of this size ought not change too dramatically from year to year. Our strategic planning, as you all know about, will be ongoing. It doesn't end. It consistently reflects and looks back and makes adjustments. Curriculum development, we're in the process of always doing that, from the individual to the programmatic to the school base. Oh, by the way, I will announce now that I'm thinking about this, and then I can make two announcements simultaneously. The Physician Assistant Program of Philadelphia University was approved this week by the New Jersey President's Council, so that's a good sign. That's the joint program between Stockton and Philadelphia University. Again, Philadelphia University could have chosen any institution, but they chose Stockton to partner with. Why? Because of the quality of our curriculum, our faculty, and our students. And that's why they chose to partner with us, because we have guaranteed admission into that program. They don't have that kind of relationship with anyone else, and that's a win. And there was another farewell. This is why I wanted to tune to this. Although she's not leaving the institution. I cannot overstate how much I appreciate what Beth Catherines have done with the School of Health Science. Beth, are you in here? There she is. Please give her. And so she'll be back as the director of the physical therapy program, so we'll hear from her again, rest assured. The engagement, of course, scholarly activities can fall under virtually any of the items, certainly learning. We're committed to that. Community outreach, as we just looked at, and I'll give you a couple highlights of that. We've only picked out 10 or 11. Integrate global perspectives throughout the curriculum. We're building on that. Expand international opportunities, that is definitely happening. An academic audit and operational procedures supporting sustainability. We will have some pretty substantial announcement about our sustainability program in the near future. I know that the president, Charles and Don Hudson, there's another, you don't know him, but there's someone, if you haven't met him, and I'm sure he'll be introduced, Don Hudson, our new head of facilities, and he is terrific, and I don't want to steal his thunder, but he's doing a great job. RMPD. This is from all sources. This is not just the grants office. This is from the schools. We have moved, as you can see, the dollar amount from about $681,000 in fiscal year 2011 to about $848,000 right now. That is a substantial increase. Our goal was to equate to $3,000. Not that every faculty member gets $3,000. I'm going to repeat this over and over again. On average, okay, $3,000 per faculty member from every funding source. And believe me, it's an incredible amount of work because we're so decentralized to find every funding source. But I want to thank Teresa Marinelli, all the folks in the various offices who have their positions in their offices for getting these data together. And what it has done, and this is impressive, when we bring in consultants from ASCSB or we bring in consultants from other programs, one of the things they do for any of the programs that are going through their 5-year program review, one of the first things they do is what kind of support is there for RMPD? This is impressive data. It also is impressive to middle states. It shows the commitment. If you put resources where you say it's important, you get these kinds of results. So again, thanks to my colleagues, the president-elect, for supporting our requests. Assessment. We are going to become a leader. We have, number one, we have Sonia Gonzalez helping to lead the effort. That's one of the reasons why we're going to become a leader. The second reason we're going to become a leader is because I see the activity starting to happen. I see it happening across the board. I see it in your annual program reviews that you submit, and I begin to see it in the language of the documents, and that's a substantial change. It also begins to subtly change the way we teach and learn. That's the great thing about assessment. If you look at it as simply that, not an accountability tool, but as a teaching and learning tool, it becomes much more important. All programs now and all minors have developed assessment plans and identified learning outcomes. We had different variations of that just as recently as 5 or 6 years ago, but a sustained effort to improve that has occurred. And I'm pleased to announce it has occurred. All of this stuff is available online at the assessment website. College-wide assessment committee members review assessment plans. The website was launched with resources for faculty and program. Important to take a look at it. It's a really nice site. It's used heavily, and it's impressive. And the assessment institutes in the summer have been mentoring colleagues regarding valid assessment of student learning. The summer assessment institutes that have been funded by programs have been very successful. I like the energy, and what we'll try to do is feature best practices through our academic affairs retreat as well as during the academic year. Faculty fellows, the IFD, I mentioned them earlier. It's expanded by having fellows. We have Deb Feigard, who's working with scholarship, Doug Harvey, and integrating technology into the classroom. Mike Frank, of course, with with statistics, and Liz Shobe on teaching strategies and pedagogy. So we not only have Bill, we have faculty fellows working with faculty who are interested in enhancing their skills in any one of those areas, and I think that's important. The coach survey that I mentioned earlier, this is a, you know, Harvard had designed it, since 2003. We were back, we tried to do it years ago. We didn't have the response rate we would have liked, so we figured it was time to bring this back to get a sense of where we're at. And this year, we're really pleased with the response rate. Again, I want to thank Sonia and others who, you know, sent out email after email after email to ensure there was a little competition among the schools at the end. I heard there was pizzas getting purchased and everything like that to get people to, and let's see what happened here. Oh, good, we took that out. I told them, don't, but let's put it this way. The smaller schools tended to have the higher response rates, but overall, there wasn't much variability. We'll leave it at that. But good job to all. 53% will give us valid and reliable data, I hope. University status. In talking about this, officially, since actually, I guess it's been talked about since 1969, well, 70 maybe, but we're talking about it officially, okay, since fall 2012. The Faculty Senate Task Force, I want to thank Roger. Michelle McDonald has done a terrific job overseeing that. This is not an easy task to have this kind of discussion in this institution. And I want to commend the civility in which this took place, the thoughtfulness in which this took place, the transparency in which this took place, and the fact that I think we now have a wealth of data. But just to review from a big picture point of view, we've had 4 online surveys of faculty, staff, students, alum. Public poll with the Youth Center, and by the way, the Youth Center, when they did the polling for the gubernatorial race and the Senate race, had probably the best. They did, actually. They had the most accurate predictions of those races of any of the polls in the country that did polling on that. So to Sharon, Dan, John Frusian, kudos for that job. The final activity report and recommendations submitted to Faculty Senate just last month. The conversation must continue. There is support for the conversation to continue. I think if you look at the data, it speaks for itself, but across the board, in every category, and it increases by categories, but in every category, there is support to minimally continue the discussion in this arena. It would not be in good stead not to, because of the overwhelming responses that came back. And I think it's a good idea to continue this discussion. I'm sure that will take place. Grant highlights, internal awards. This is this fiscal year, just to give you a quick update. 418, this is for just grants internal. 418,172 awarded, 123 faculty members. This, so far, okay, have been awarded internal funds. You're to be commended. 16 sabbaticals were awarded and 25 course releases overload. So that's pretty substantial. External awards so far, $4.5 million in new awards. There are 32 projects. Now, many of those, there's some small projects, they all count. I don't care if it's $15, you can get an external grant, I'm happy with it. Okay, but there's some very large ones in there, there's a great mixture. What's really important is 69% of the applications that were submitted were funded. So we're on a roll, so not unlike some of the other things. Remember, when your name gets out there, and this is important, the more your name gets out there, whether it's in U.S. News & World Report, whether it's at ASCU, ACE, any of the major organizations, people hear the name. People look at the faculty names. That does, unless it's completely blind, and a lot of grants are not external world. There are some, many are, but a lot are not. I mean, your reputation carries, so it's important to submit those applications. Stockton Center for Community Engagement, the SCC, and Reva Curry has done an extraordinary job with this, as you all know, trying to corral all of the various entities at Stockton that are committed to their versions of community engagement, and that's important. And she's done a great job doing that. But the fellows, Jennifer and Joe, Jennifer Barr, who she and I actually corresponded about 6 a.m. this morning about whether we should close or not. Jennifer Barr and Joe Rubenstein. They administered faculty surveys to engagement in October. I think you all know that. They're conducting faculty focus groups in February. They're working with Absecon to assist with strategic planning, marketing, public arts efforts, and other towns. are now involved in this. We're getting other, and it's called the Recovery Business and Main Street Discussion Group, a group of towns that were particularly hurt by Sandy, want to all have revitalizations of their, main streets. Hamilton Township, Mays Landing, for example, has a main street, but they don't want to compete with one another. And it's foolish to compete with one another. So what they want to do is work together to come up with a more broad regional kind of concept associated with this. So we have 20 community member partners going to meet to discuss needs, how Stockton can provide assistance. And the next meeting is this month, if weather permits it. Okay. Workshops planned for May 15th. SRI ETTC. I don't normally share these numbers but it's important to know the reach of this SRI and ETTC in the state of New Jersey. And just remember the numbers I showed you, how many head count we have here. Last year, 2012-2013, the SRI ETTC had 457 workshops, 347 custom. That means they did it within a district. Okay, and then 110 public workshops. They had nearly 12,000 participants, K through 12 teachers. 12,000 participants, and 10,000 were in their own schools. That means we are in the school. Many of our faculty here, okay, provide those workshops in the schools, and that's another connection of getting the Stockton name out when you are working with the teachers. So it's one of those positive unintended consequences of doing that. So, and 1,580 educators were in the was once called the Parkway building down the street. So that's pretty impressive numbers. Let's take a look at our regional sites that we talked about before. Let's first take a look at Hamilton. Hamilton, as you know, fall 2012 was at St. Joe's and the Hamilton Arts Center and Eagle Theater. There were 8 courses, 128 enrollments. This past fall, we went up 19 courses, 261 enrollments there. Spring, we went from 11 and 103 enrollments in spring of 2013 to 12. Similar number, 114. The enrollments went up slightly, but that's a nice increase. Manahawkin, for it to have this kind of numbers, it's small. Manahawkin is not a large site. It's just a couple classrooms and very little office space at all. And it has generated these kinds of numbers. Now, Manahawkin is one of the areas, Manahawkin and Ocean County, one of the high growth potentials. Just recently, Atlantic City Press article did a piece on planned housing growth in the region, and Southern Ocean County was one of the largest growth predictions of growth. Fall 2012, 125. It literally almost doubled, 229 in fall 2013. Spring 2013, 129 enrollments. But look at what I like to see is 9 courses, 169. So fewer courses with more enrollments. So we're beginning to target what works well there. That's what we want to be able to do, is to target what works well there so that we're not, wasting resources by offering courses to so small a number of students. So again, these are all positive outlooks. Another program, and I know that the Faculty Senate is talking about this, but if you talk about a program that is important, high school partnerships is one of the ways we can demonstrate to the public and the legislatures our commitment to the completion agenda, to ensuring that high school graduates graduate and to ensure the high school graduates go to college. This is one of the ways. It's also one of the ways down the road that we hopefully, these same students, these are all reasonably tough courses that are being taught. These are not remedial courses being taught in the high schools. These are pre-calc, calc, across the board courses being taught in the high schools that students who come to Stockton will either come with college credit or in essence some kind of advanced placement standing, but in this case it's with college credit. But get a look at the growth of this. 7 schools initially in 2012-13 to 13 schools, up to 271 to nearly 500 students, K through 12 students, who will get the college experience, who will get college. And these are students, just so you know, we're not hurting, we're not taking away any opportunities, because they could have taken AP courses. They chose Stockton and got the same credits. They chose Stockton courses, and the high schools would prefer that, because with that, with our faculty who are doing the liaison, they like that. The high schools like our college faculty working with their faculty because, again, the synergies that happen that may be unplanned, okay, are positive synergies. So that's a good program. 2020, this has become extraordinarily popular, and this ties in back to what? To the legs themes. Goes all the way back to the beginning. And since fiscal year 2012, we had 25 projects have received funding through 2020. That's not the year 2020, so if any of you have two-year projects and think you're getting funded through, no, I'm just kidding. It's through the 2020 funding plan. All right, 6 additional projects have been funded through existing funds. In other words, 25 got 2020 funds. 6, when we read them, they either went to the student affairs, to Tomas's area, or my area to see if we had internal monies to support them. And 2020 has awarded almost $385,000 in funding through 2016. 4 projects have been the outcomes were so impressive that the president offered to take them out of 2020 so it didn't count against our total available funding and put them into presidential initiative funds and their ongoing projects. And the on-campus sustainability farm with Tate and Patrick, international study tours that India is overseeing, and teaching circles, Heather and Bill Reynolds, and then of course the New York Times readership program, Daniel Tomei. And I was just literally today, an email from the person who's in charge of this, and Lou's shaking his head because he was in the office when it came in, thanking Stockton and Stockton faculty and staff for what they've done to infuse the New York Times into the curriculum. Looking forward, the divisional goals, the academic plan initiative, and then what I know Charles Ingram over there is waiting for, and that is the budget request. Okay, and him too, by the way. I think he's going to pay a little attention to this. Establish goals based on the leg themes. We will stay with the leg themes. That's where we're going to establish your goals. They're going to link in there. If you have a goal that doesn't link into the legs theme, change your goal. It's not going to get funded. Figure out another way of saying it. Link it into something, please. Okay, it's just not going to get through, all right? Align your resources to support your goals. We're going to align our resources. If we say it's important, we have to demonstrate it's important. You know that. And the way we demonstrate it is putting resources, not always dollars. It could be human resources, it could be mental resources, whatever it is. But we've got to demonstrate that we're going to do that. And then measure progress and make adjustments. Don't measure progress just to measure progress. You're measuring progress to see what you need to do to enhance it, or to at least validate that what you're doing is exactly what you wanted it to do. And that's what we're going to continue. We're going to continue this model. It appears to be working. All of the externalities, whether we're talking about accreditation, whether we're talking about U.S. News, whether we're talking about appointments to national committees, whether we're talking about the kinds of presentations that the faculty and staff are making, all of this counts to who we are and what we are about. And that is a first-rate public liberal arts and sciences with professional studies education. Focus remains on planning, educational partnerships and outreach. This is critical because it ties the community in. In addition to the strong campaign that Sharon and her folks have done getting our name out and the public relations associated with it, do not underestimate the kind of work we're doing in the communities and the impact that has. When a Stu Farrell is consulting with all of the municipal townships along the beach concerning beach erosion, that plays a dividend because that's the Stockton names that are out there. So we'll continue to do that. Accountability, I almost want to get rid of that because we're so far beyond that. We'll put our data up against anyone. And assessment, but that we are going to be part of. And then international opportunities. That is a market we must grab some of it. We must. We don't need a large number. We need a consistent flow coming into the institution to offset some of the demographic challenges that we're all going to confront. And Rowan, listen, and I know the president will speak individually at more depth about this to each program that each school that he visits. Rowan has a fundamental growth objective. They are going to grow. There is no question about that. Their aim is to be over 20,000 students and 20,000 students quickly. Montclair has a growth agenda. They want to be bigger. So you have 2 universities, one in R1, or in the process of becoming an R1, and the other one, a major comprehensive university in this state, that have high growth agendas. That means we will have to compete for students. So it's critical that we have more than one market, which is why I talked about targeted programs that need to reach out to different markets and maybe in an online venue for those that can. We must think about this. Academic plan initiative. When we put out the call for people to serve on the 10 or so committees, more than 120 faculty and staff had joined. I cannot overstate how impressive that is. That was voluntary. I want to thank all of you for participating in all the initiatives, because I promised, and we didn't this year. I promised no new initiatives this year because you're all volunteering on so many. But we're bringing so many of them to fruition because of you. Study teams completed the research and formulated strategic and tactical ideas. We've identified the key recommendations from all of those, and a draft report will be ready in April to be disseminated to get a sense of where we are. E-portfolios, just talking to Lucia this morning as we were walking in, talking about the work that's being done on e-portfolios. When we talked about assessment, we didn't just say use the CLA. We didn't just say use NESI. I want to use the CLA. I want to use NESI. But there are other ways to demonstrate direct learning outcomes. E-portfolios are a good way of doing. Mini showcases is how I look at them, where students can demonstrate and show and have a product that people will look at. It's a good thing. It reinforces the reflection process. So I like where we're going with that. The goal is to have a pilot project with select groups for fall 2014 freshman seminar courses. I want to thank the FIRST faculty, the GT's faculty that are in the freshman seminar, and again, Sonia and others who are working with this e-portfolios to make sure, I know Susan is too, to make sure that that this gets off the ground. I think students like it. I don't think there's a more beautiful sight in this college. There's a couple I've seen. When I saw the graduate showcase at the end of the fall term that was held, I remember when it started, and I see lots of the deans shaking their head. It was absolutely incredible in the campus center when you saw all the showcase materials that were there. Absolutely, and parents came, and the general public came, and even some former students at the college came, alum came to look at it. In addition, when NAMS has its showcase in the end of May, oh no, not end of May, in the end of April. We don't have classes in the end of May, do we? No, I know that. Okay, in the not yet this year, right? This year, right? Okay, in the end of April is again another absolutely. It's a terrific site. It's worth going to hear the students present their projects, and then just the joy among the faculty and students that have worked on it. Worth seeing. Make sure you take the time to do it. Kara Hood is serving as a one-year appointment as ELO director. She leads the steering committee. Kara has extraordinary energy. Those who've worked with her know what I am talking about. And she's going to promote the concept, gain wider acceptance, and move this initiative forward. Global challenges. This is something we're doing in conjunction with Rowan. We have 4 Stockton faculty led by Tina Zapil, who will teach this summer. Remember, you've seen it. We've presented it to you, the ASCU's Global Challenges course. Shayla Mills has been here. She was one of the primary architects of this course. We have identified, thanks to John and his folks, students who have applied to Stockton, been admitted to Stockton, and have committed to enroll in Stockton to offer them this course online for free to lock them in so there's no what's commonly referred to as summer melt, okay? As they come into Stockton, as one of the courses they take coming into Stockton. It's a G course. We have 4 faculty teaching. It'll be about 100 and some students, I guess. Rowan is doing the same with their 4 faculty. The 4 faculty from each school have been interacting with one another. We're not going to poach one another's freshmen. Well, I'd like to poach theirs, but they're not going to poach our freshman class. Okay? The chairman's going, no, he doesn't even want me to say that. I promise we won't do it. The two freshman classes, but it's something we're doing, and that again is something that shows the legislature that we are about improving and making certain that your agenda is being heard. And again, it also provides an opportunity for students and us to practice some of the strengths and weaknesses associated for that kind of process. International services. Yep, global. Finalize the contract with the ELS Educational Services. This is critical to our expanding the international student population, and we're doing renovations down in one of the wings around here, lower B, thanks, lower B wing as we speak. And this concerns bringing in a company that was very well vetted to work with pre-admitted, not post-admitted, pre-admitted potentially students who have who need additional language proficiency in order to become admitted to a public or private institution in the United States. ELS is one of the premier and certainly has the best reputation of these kinds of services. And what's particularly important, they, as much as we wanted them, they had to select us. We went through a substantial scrutiny test, seriously, and we impressed them with the quality of the facilities, the quality of our faculty, the quality of our commitment to them being here, working, and bringing in students from all across the world who will have access to our campus. Now, they're not have to commit to Stockton, but I would hope that if we have these students here and they have the experience on the Stockton campus, which includes housing and the like, that they would obviously want to matriculate here, but they're not required to do so. This is important. They get all the visas. They take care of all the issues that Stockton currently has, many of the barriers we have to attracting students, international students to the campus. This is huge for the college, and not big numbers, but a steady stream. I think we're going to be hosting literally counselors from Korea and China throughout this summer as a result of the ELS program. So we're getting on the map in that field. I know the president is ahead of this whole association for the American Council on Education, and Charles and I will be speaking there if we get out of Philadelphia tomorrow in Washington. So this is very, very important too. Implemented the Teradata software system. Basically, this is a comprehensive system. Those who've used it have really liked it. It cuts on a lot of the paperwork you used to have to do as it pertains to study tours and the like. Now, you want to know how much for academic affairs? Okay. Here it is. For the academic affairs budget, our request, now, let me restate this a million times, but I will. What I request does not necessarily mean what we're going to get, okay? Everybody understand that? Yes? Okay. We're going to all right, we're requesting on the academic affairs budget, we're going to request $1.6 million increase, which is not, I mean, that's a big number when you think about it. It's not a huge increase when you look at it in relation to the percent increase. A 2.5% increase in the operating budget of academic affairs. I have a separate computer and production services institutional budget. In other words, I have two kinds of computer and production services budget. One that is part of academic affairs, that's in the academic affairs request, and then one that supports all of the other entities at the college, and that's in the institutional request. In that request of $1.6 million are 8 new faculty line requests. Now, why production services? I want to show you this because this is absolutely astounding to me. These are major events. Keep in mind the growth, and this speaks to more than, this is not academic affairs now. This is major college events. This speaks to the kind of growth, major events. When you talk about pre-campus center, pre-external sites, regional sites, we had 366, okay? Jumped to 375, to 467, to 723, to 923 major events. And you think about it, if you ever come in this building on a night, you'll see what I'm talking about. In the first 6 months of fiscal year 14 alone, we have 671 events. So when you talk about the reach of Stockton and the growth of Stockton and who we are, these data, absolutely, you talk about the light, all of the different events that we're having, these data shed a light on what kind of numbers we're talking about. And some of these events have hundreds of participants. The Affordable Care Act workshop had 600 participants. Another 700 viewed it on video stream. They're huge numbers. So to get a flavor of the kind of reach, just the other night we had a major event here, Rob Barney's event, and human trafficking had a huge crowd. So I mean, we have major, we're going to have Sandra Day O'Connor here. That's a major event. And these are the kinds of, we need to provide more staffing. One of the areas I have neglected as the provost is I've focused all of my energy on faculty lines. We need to take a close look at production services and computer services because we've grown and we've got to make sure that they're amply staffed and have enough resources. Determining factors for faculty lines. When I put out the request to the deans, I usually get 50 requests for new lines. We then have to whittle that. That's a light year when I only get 50 requests. Even though I tell them no matter what, the deans are laughing because they know what I'm talking about. Some of the deans are more conservative than others. We have to whittle that down through a process, and we do. And what are some of the things we look at? We both do qualitative and we do quantitative. Qualitative is, what are the needs? Where are we going? We may not have the real numbers yet. We're projecting where it may be. And so we have to use some qualitative data too. But student demand enrollment trends, looking at trends not just here, but in the region, what we see. We have access to a lot of data. That's what we have, and we look at those trends. And we start to make decisions based on them. We have not caught up to the BSHS, as I've told you before. We're playing catch up right now. The mean scheduled student credit hours. I look at that. I look at those. I look to see what's the productivity by faculty, by adjunct, by full-time faculty, by program, by school. General studies, program. But I do recognize that some areas have to give it all to program simply because the demand is so great. And general studies is one of the areas, as a result, has to rely, I think, too heavily on adjuncts. And health sciences have to rely too heavily on adjuncts. That 70-30 I gave you is not the breakout across the board. Disaggregated, it's very different. I have as high as 90-10 to 55-45. That has to be more balanced and has to be more fair. But we look at that. The distribution of courses throughout the day. If I see a program all bunched in, unless there's a legitimate pedagogical reason, for example, some programs, if they're heavy on the clinical, they need to be able to be at nights and the like. But I want to see a distribution. We want to balance. It makes everything work better if the whole day is balanced, rather than everybody coming in 10:30. And you have done that. You have done that extraordinarily well. We've done, the IR, Zhangping and others have done a great study to give us a quick update on how we're doing on the distribution of courses throughout the day. And I think when we saw it as a group, we were pleasantly surprised. Let's keep it up. We do pay attention to it. Willingness to schedule courses at regional sites. That doesn't mean full-time faculty. That means identifying qualified adjuncts too, if need be. But we do need to ensure those sites have enough courses for students to choose from. So we look at all of those things. What are the specific lines? ARHU, communications, okay? Public relations, advertising, electronic media. We need more in the area of electronic media. That's out there, obviously. And assistant professional visual arts. Business, marketing. Okay, Jenny has done a tremendous job keeping her ratios that she needs to keep, and we've moved. In fact, we've moved up one more notch in our progression towards AACSB accreditation. So thank you, Jenny. Thank you, members of the business program, for doing that. Health sciences, obviously, to position, critical, absolutely critical to the numbers I told you about before. NAMS, marine science, a physical oceanographer. We live real close to it. Maybe we should have somebody teaching it. What do you think? Okay. Biology and chemistry, not just for NAMS. The biology chemistry lines, and that's because health science wants the bio and chem to be taught for their majors by bio and chem faculty. But it's as much for service to health sciences as it is for NAMS. And that's it. Thank you.